Well, I got another video review for you. This one is from a company called MWXNE. And so this one here is a 1200 watt inverter and it is 12 volt. It's got an aluminum housing. The only part that's steel is just end caps. You can see the magnet sticks to them. This inverter here is really stout as far as the case goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and get you guys some measurements. So I'm gonna measure it from the very end of the terminals right there all the way to the end right on this side, which is the mounting surface, and it comes out to be 11 3/4, 6 inches. It's about 3 1/8 high. I'm gonna go ahead and get you guys a weight on this inverter, and it says right here 5.3 pounds. So this inverter comes with a pretty nice user manual, flat blade screwdriver, and then it comes with a little grounding wire. Then you've got a couple of 40 amp blade fuses, and then you've got a remote control, and this one takes an A23 battery. Now this is not like any of the remote controls that I've ever tested before. This one's, I'll just be honest, it's kind of cheesy because it has this little thing that slides up and down on it, I guess to keep you from turning it on and off. But then it also has this antenna that you pull out. I've not tested this one, but some of the other remotes that I've tested, they've all done really well. So as long as it works, I'm happy. But then they give you a cigarette lighter cord, and you got some ring terminals here on the end. And this is so if you want to plug this into your cigarette lighter, hook it to your inverter. Now, granted, you're not going to get 1200 watts out of this inverter. You're only going to maybe get 100, 150 watts out of it, depending on your cigarette lighter in your vehicle. So don't think that you're going to be able to just plug this in a cigarette lighter and be able to run a 1200 watts off this this little wire, because it's not happening. And then you've got these cables here. You've got your alligator clamps on each end, and they got some good tension on them. I gotta give them that. These things feel really stout. They have like soft plastic type sleeve on the outside of them. They do appear to be copper. As far as the wire goes, I couldn't really see a stamping on here. If I was going to be a fortune teller, I would guess that these are probably going to overheat. We'll test it all out here in a minute, and we're just going to run through it and show you the inverter now. You can see right here on this end, you've got 2 electric fans. They are brushless, and then you've got your 2 terminals here in the middle. And I always wiggle these things because I have found some in the past to be loose. So I went ahead and pulled the bolt out of the terminal there, and it is an M6 size bolt, and it does have a flat washer, a lock washer. The one thing that I noticed was, you can use the flat bladed screwdriver to take it in and out, but it is a Phillips head. I wish they would have provided a Phillips head, because sometimes when you put that flat bladed screwdriver in there, sometimes it don't fit. I would probably just throw this away and use a Phillips head screwdriver with this so you don't strip it out. So on this end of the inverter, you can see that I've got 2 AC outlets here, and it says here on the top that, and in the manual, that it's rated at 110 volts. And then right here, you've got your classic toggle switch. And then down below it, you've got a little jack there to plug in a remote. Now, this particular unit didn't come with a remote, so I don't know if you can add another remote to it. I would say maybe you could reach out to the company, and if they do offer one, then I'm sure it would probably work. Then right in here, you've got your quick charge USB, and it says they're good for 18 watts, and there's 3 of them. That's pretty unusual. Usually there's only maybe 1, maybe 2 at the most, but they actually give you 3. And then right here, there is a power delivery USB-C port, and it says it's 60 watts. So providing the power today, this is going to be a new battery for me. I'm going to be testing out the XZNY battery. This is a 200 amp hour battery. And one thing that I really like about this is, like I said, it's a 200 amp hour battery, and usually they're a lot longer. It measures about 14.5 inches long. So if you compare that to some of your other batteries, this is pretty much like a mini battery, but in a 200 amp hour size. We're going to test it out. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever used this battery. I went ahead and fully charged it, and you're going to be seeing me use it here in some of the future tests and all that. So I just wanted to mention this inverter is on Amazon right now for $150. And if you've not seen my review on these, check these out. These are really nice screwdrivers. I got these a month or 2 back, and I've been very, very pleased with them. They seem to work really good. I did scratch the coating off there on that terminal, and it is a copper terminal. Now, as far as the wire size, I've looked and looked and looked all over these trying to find a size. I wasn't able to find the exact size. I'm guessing it might be a number 6 or smaller. The terminals didn't move when I tightened it down, so that's a good sign. So I was able to actually find the markings on these, and it says that it's a 10 millimeter, and that is an 8 gauge if you do the conversion on it. And so 8 gauge wire is not nowhere near big enough. It's recommended that you use a 4 gauge wire with these. So if you're listening, MWXNE, make sure you guys upgrade the wire size. This is just not big enough, and I know these things are going to get super piping hot. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and hook the positive up. When we go ahead and hook the negative up, we're going to do it just like this. We're going to go ahead and take a 30 ohm resistor, and we're just going to touch it to these clamps. We're going to touch it there to that bolt. We're going to give it a few minutes to charge those capacitors up in the middle. This is just a tiny inverter, and you probably don't need to do this step, but I figured, this is just a little bit of added protection. But we're going to go ahead and connect it now, and hopefully it don't give us any kind of spark. Nope. No spark. If you're interested in these, you can check these out down in my description. If you're interested in the battery, it's down there as well. The inverter, and then plus some of the stuff I'm going to use to test it with here in just a minute. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and turn it on. And made a nice little beeping noise. It sounded like it was sick there for a minute. So you can see right here on the screen that it shows that the unit is got 13.5 volts. At 60 hertz, and the output is showing that it's at 111 volts, and of course there's no watts right now, so it's at 0. And then it shows a little pure sine wave, shows a battery indicator, shows that it's full. As always, guys, I never trust these. They're more of just a decoration more than anything, and we'll see how close it is, but most of the time they're not very accurate. But this one does tell a temperature on there. It says that it's 23 degrees Celsius. So according to the old interweb, 23 degrees Celsius is 73.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's probably pretty close. It's probably about 69 degrees in the house right now, and this thing's only been on for a minute. I'm sure that it's not rose up 3 degrees and just there's been no load on it. So again, like I said, I don't know how accurate any of this is. So I wanted to go ahead and test the remote right off the bat just to see, and actually it has a really good range. You can see right here the unit is turned in the off position, and I just hit the button. And there you go, makes that nice beeping sound. And then when I want to turn it off, just mash the off button. And one thing I do want to note is my girlfriend took the remote, went to the other side of the house, and was able to turn it on and off. So it does have a really good range. And one thing that I want to mention is you don't have to have this out to be able to have good range with it. She had this thing closed, and it was still able to turn the unit on and off several rooms away, all the way at the other end of the house. So I tested the standby power, and according to the old clamp meter, it says that it uses about 11 to 12 watts of power. So if you're not using this thing, I would definitely keep it turned off, because it's using quite a bit of power. I mean, it's not crazy, but that's 11, 12 watts of power that you could just be saving if you just turn the unit off, especially with the remote. It makes it easy. Now, I told you that I would check the voltage, and it says right here that it's at 111.8 at 60 hertz. And it says right here on the meter that it's at 112 at 60 hertz. So next, I'm going to take the oscilloscope and check the sine wave. And you can see right there, nice and clean sine wave. So next, we're going to plug in this 1000 watt hair dryer right here, and I'm going to go ahead and reset the watt meter there. The reason I do that is because I'll tell you how many watts this unit is surged up to, and that way we'll get an idea of just how high it went. And then I can show you real time right here on the screen what the wattage is. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on just the fan. Then I'm going to turn it on low heat. Then I'm going to turn it on high heat. And once I reach high heat, that should be to this max. So it's rated at 1,000 watts. So we'll see how many we can get out of it. We'll get as close to the 1,200 as we can that it's rated for. There we go. See, 146 watts. Let's turn it up to low heat. 410, 411, 412. Now I'm going to turn it on high. And it says 725. So it doesn't look like, you know, this thing's really going to put out that much. Probably limited to the actual cables there. I'm going to find something else to plug in here and see if we can't get that wattage jacked up a little bit higher. So there's not a lot of ways to get stuff plugged in here because there's only 2 outlets and they're really close together. So I've barely got that bottom outlet kind of angled, but it's still plugged in. On this watt meter here, I went ahead and reset it, and it's plugged into this little space heater. I think it's right around 400 watts. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on. 190, 200, 221. And again, we're not going to run it for a long time once we get it up there towards that 1,200 mark, if we can make it. Just simply because I know these wires are going to be piping hot. I mean, they're way undersized. But you can see right here, I seen 430 something watts. Now it's starting to go down, but I can go on right here and mash this function button and go back, and it'll tell you the highest surged wattage was 448.7. And then your real-time wattage right now is at 288. I told you before that we were going to test a hairdryer. And let's see what the surge wattage was on it. It surged up to 732 watts. We'll go back and put it on real time so you can see the wattage now. Now we're at 148 watts on this one. And 304 watts on this one. So, I'm sorry it's kind of hard to see everything because the way I'm having to plug it in. I'm going to kick the hairdryer up. So this one here is 311. This one's 411. Now I'm going to go ahead and kick the hairdryer up one more notch. This one's 718. And that one's 313. 720. So we did 323 and 724. And that come out to 1,047 watts. So that's right at, 1,050 watts. Let's just call it that. And let's see what else I can find to plug into this. Well, I have a box fan I can plug in. That gives you about 75 more watts. And that should put us at, 1,100 and 1,122 watts. That's about as close as I can get. Let me go ahead and plug that in. Alright guys, so we've got a box fan plugged in and it's running on high. It uses right at 75 to 77 watts. Then I have this hair dryer set on high and it's using 723 watts. And then I have this space heater right here running and it's 329 watts. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, man, them cables are piping hot. So, like I said, I'm not going to leave this thing running for long, but I do want to tell you that it says right here on the inverter that it's using 1,132 watts. So it's actually pretty close on the wattage there, but I can already start smelling plastic. So I'm going to be shutting this down. Sorry to have to shut it down real quick, but I started smelling some plastic over here. Yeah, them are starting to get really hot. I didn't want them to melt, but yeah, I can definitely tell these jokers are very, very hot. Let me get the thermal camera out and take a look at them. Alright guys, so I went ahead and turned it back on just to show you guys I'm not full of crap. you can see on this thermal camera, it casts a reflection. And so you can see right there at my finger, that's 151 degrees and rising. 152, 153. So I'm just letting you guys know, this is what happens whenever you get cables that are undersized, and it's only going to get hotter from here. And you know, this is not at the 1200 watt mark yet. It's just under. But imagine if you was to run this thing up another 50 or 75 more watts, you know how hot them cables are going to be. You can see right there, it just hit 160 and climbing. 161. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. We already know that this inverter is able to run the, you know, close to the 1200 mark, but you know, I don't want to end up catching nothing on fire. Now I wanted to get you guys some footage of what the fans sound like, and I gotta say they're not loud at all. But you know, they as soon as you put a load on it, it goes ahead and turns on. And you know, normally when you get a smaller diameter fan like this, usually they have like a whine to them because they're turning so fast. But this one here doesn't. It's not annoying. We'll put it that way. And so I gotta say the fans are pretty quiet. It only really comes on when you put it under, you know, when I have that little 400 watt heater plugged in. I can hear them turn on, and they're actually running right now because I moved that heater in the floor so you guys could hear the internal fan. So if you want to bring the camera a little closer. And again, I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's probably a little bit of noise from the heater and the ceiling fan that I have running in here, but yeah, the fans are nowhere near loud. And as far as the temperature on the inverter casing itself, it shows about 97 degrees right in there, 95, 94, and then right in here it shows about 87 degrees. So the case didn't get really hot, I mean, compared to the wires. Now right here on the sides where the cooling fins are, shows about 83 degrees. So you know, the unit remained pretty cool, you know, and literally I just now turned it off. Now, one thing to note on this inverter, this one's a little bit different than most of them that I've tested. A lot of times when you have the inverter turned to the off position, you can usually still plug in your USB and get power because it's just passive going through, providing that DC power straight from the battery just through the inverter and not having to turn the actual inverter on and using standby power. But with this one, it doesn't. You have to actually turn the inverter on to be able to get USB power. So keep that in mind. You know, if you're wanting to use this just the ports there to charge a phone, you have to have the inverter going. So it's going to actually use, you know, more wattage to charge your phone. You know, it's going to wear this battery down faster. So, you know, that's just one thing. You know, if I was this inverter company, I would make a change on that. So these are, you know, always have passive DC power straight from the battery and not having to turn that inverter on. So I went ahead and tested it with all these, and you have to have the inverter turned on with all of them. I'm gonna turn it off, and you can see right there, no power. Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to make mention to you, because that might be important to you if you were using this for camping or something like that, and you just want to have your phones plugged in at nighttime and not have the inverter turned on and using more power. So just wanted to let you guys know. So I wanted to test the USB-C port. It says that it is a power delivery 60 watt port. And when I tested it into my girlfriend's Z Fold 2, it says right here on the cable that it's only getting about 8 watts. Now, I unplugged it here and plugged it into the camera that we're filming with right now. And it's a Samsung Galaxy S23, 22 Ultra. And I was able to get 27 watts out of it. That seems a little bit low. I don't think you'll probably get the 60 watts out of there. But it still said here on the phone that it was super fast charging. Usually when you plug it in, it just says fast charging. But, you know, when I plug it in her phone, it says super fast charging. So, you know, it is fast, but I don't think you'll get the whole 60 watts out of it. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. There's really not that much more to tell about it. One last thing. Right here. There's your... Damn it. Alright, so I wanted to mention that this inverter, when it's turned on, it shows that there's a blue light right in there. And usually the lights are green, but this one says blue for power. And then right next to it is an LED that would light up red, and it's for a fault light. So if something went wrong, it would let you know by lighting that up. And then I told you earlier in the video that it come with just a little grounding wire with some ring terminals on there. And the way that you would ground it would be right in here. There's this little grounding stud sticking out of there. And then you've got just an acorn nut that you can put on there. Once you put your wire on there, you just screw the acorn nut back on and you should be good to go. So this concludes my review of the MWXNE 1200 watt pure sine wave power inverter. Gotta say, it seemed to do good in the test. My only complaint was the wires. They were just undersized, way too small. And you know, the only other thing that I didn't like was the USB ports. The inverter has to be turned on in order to use the USB ports. But other than that, the fans wasn't loud. It seemed to get all the way up there as close to 1200 watts as I could get. It was 1100 and something watts. And, you know, I would say this is a pretty decent inverter. If you're interested in it, make sure you check down below. I'll put a link to this inverter in the description. And also they've got some other inverters. I know they got some larger ones, some 12 volt, 24 volt, and I believe 48 volt. So I might end up testing some of those out as well. But also, if you're interested in the XZNY battery, I'll put a link for it in the description. And as far as the thermal camera, the watt meters, the resistors, and all that, make sure you check that description out down below. Till next time, guys, see ya. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.